Why Voldemort is not the name Rowling actually gave to the Dark Lord. Which character's deaths does the writer lament to this day? And does she really regret pairing up Ron and Hermione? Hi, I'm Joy, and you're watching OSSA Movies. Lost in pronunciation. Foreign languages are tricky, and one of the names in the Harry Potter series proves this point. How do you pronounce the name of the Dark Lord? Sure, you might call him you-know-who or he who shall not be named, but what about his actual name everyone was so afraid to say out loud? Maybe they feared to do it because they didn't know how? After all, no one, not even one person in the series, pronounced it correctly. If you know a little bit of French, you know that the letter T in this language is silent at the end of a word, and you might also know death is mort in French. Rowling once revealed Voldemort, or Voldemort's name literally translates as flight from death, and its last letter shouldn't be pronounced. As JK wrote on her Twitter, "I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who pronounces it that way." Well, I bet she is. Except for French people, maybe. The author didn't correct the pronunciation mistake right away, and it caught on in the movies. At least Rowling taught fans to pronounce Hermione correctly, thank God. Rowling admitted that in the Goblet of Fire book, she included a scene of Miss Granger teaching Victor Crumb to say Hermione, not Hermione, especially so the readers wouldn't mispronounce it. Looks like she should have done a similar scene with Voldemort. Dumbledore's orientation had to be more obvious. A revelation about the Hogwarts headmaster's sexuality was one of the biggest Rowling ever made. Although it was never elaborated on in the series, Dumbledore was supposed to be gay. And he also had a romantic history with his longtime friend turned enemy, Gellert Grindelwald. To say that fans were shocked is an understatement. But most of them liked this revelation, partly because it added some representation to the series. And later, Rowling said that if she knew how warmly the crowd would accept this fact, she'd have shared it much earlier and added something about it to the books. Now, with the new Harry Potter series coming to our screens featuring a younger Dumbledore, it seems like the time was right to finally make his orientation evident. But it still wasn't addressed, even in the second Fantastic Beasts movie. Its director, David Yates, explained that it wasn't a plan to make Dumbledore's sexuality too explicit, and Rowling didn't seem to mind that this detail of his character didn't receive much attention once again. But Yates promised that we'd finally get a better glimpse into Albus's romantic history in the next film. Would you like to see more of it? Not so nasty dog for a nasty aunt. Remember the scene in The Prisoner of Azkaban where Harry had to deal with Uncle Vernon's sister Marge? She was just as unpleasant as the Dursleys, or even worse, and she kept on blabbing canine-related theories. One of them stated that if there's something wrong with a female dog, her puppies will also turn out wrong, alluding to Harry's mother and himself. And you certainly remember what happened next. Aunt Marge had a bulldog that was supposed to be as nasty as she was. But later, JK Rowling said that she regretted choosing this particular breed as the character's pet. After all, they're not aggressive and are usually quite sweet. My sister owns one, and he's the most lovable, affectionate dog you could hope to meet, the author said. But we still understand why she chose that breed. Even if they are lovely, bulldogs always look grumpy. And its appearance seems to be suitable for Aunt Marge's pet, doesn't it? Now let's move on to some of the more tear-jerking things from the series, the deaths of oh so many characters. Fred Weasley shouldn't have died. Although we saw many people pass away in the series, his death hit us especially hard. After all, Fred and his twin brother George became fan favorites thanks to their cheery demeanor. My god, these two even managed to bring down Dolores Umbridge with their massive prank. It was so epic. So seeing Fred die in the Battle of Hogwarts was brutal. But what was even more brutal was the description of this scene in the book. If you've read it, you know what I mean. But if you didn't, it's best if you don't know. Trust us. After thousands of fans wept at the death of this remarkable character, Rowling finally revealed how much she regretted killing him off. If you're a hardcore Harry Potter fan, you know that every year on the anniversary of the Battle of Hogwarts, which is the 2nd of May, JK apologizes for the death of one of the characters. And she began this tradition with her tweet about Fred in 2015. Today, I would just like to say, I'm really sorry about Fred. Bow's head in acceptance of your reasonable ire, Rowling wrote. We accept your apology, Joanne. Lupin could have survived. He's the second character Rowling recalled in her Battle of Hogwarts commemoration posts. It was regrettable to see Lupin and his wife Tonks die in the final part. They were beloved characters for many, they loved each other so much, and they also had a baby son. So why did Rowling decide to leave little Teddy an orphan? Turns out it happened because she chose to let another crucial character survive. Remember how Nagini attacked Arthur Weasley in the Department of Mysteries in the 5th book? According to the writer's initial plan, he was supposed to die back then. But then JK thought Mr. Weasley was too good of a father figure and kept him alive, and instead of him, she decided to kill off Lupin and did it later in the series. Yeah, looks like she had a very specific death count in the series. Arthur lived, so Lupin had to die, Rowling wrote in a tweet. I'm sorry, I didn't enjoy doing it. The only time my editor ever saw me cry was over the fate of Teddy. We're not done with the character deaths, but you probably don't even remember the next one. One guy who died in vain. Do you happen to recall Florian Fortescue, the ice cream parlor owner from Diagon Alley? Yeah, I didn't think so. So let me tell you more about this guy. If you were attentive reading the Deathly Hallows, you might remember the news about Fortescue disappearing. According to Rowling's initial plan, Harry was supposed to find him and learn important information from him, as Florian was a descendant of Hogwarts' former headmaster Dexter Fortescue. He was supposed to tell Harry about the Elder Wand and diadem of Ravenclaw, but then Rowling realized that Phineas Nigellus Black and the Grey Lady could do it better, so she removed his plotline from the story. I seem to have him kidnapped and killed for no reason, Rowling wrote. He's not the first wizard whom Voldemort murdered because he knew too much or too little, but he's the only one I feel guilty about because it was all my fault. What a sad fate. Okay, enough deaths. Let's talk about a character who wasn't where he was supposed to be. Dobby cut from the Goblet of Fire movie. Can you imagine that those people who haven't read the books have no idea that elves were the ones who made all the meals at Hogwarts? This subplot was quite significant in the books, but the movies didn't show even the tiniest part of Dobby, Winky, or the other elves working in the school kitchen. And also, Dobby, not Neville, was the one who gave gillyweed to Harry so he could breathe underwater in the second task of the Triwizard Tournament. As Rowling once admitted in an interview, she wasn't a fan of the decision to cut Dobby and the other elves from the fourth film. After all, he played a crucial part in the series. Sure, we get it, the books were way too big to be adapted completely, and some of the storylines had to go. But still, it would have been great to see more of the bravest house elf in the movies. What do you think about it? Should Dobby have been in the Goblet of Fire movie? Share in the comments below, and we're moving on. Rowling wanted to end with a graduation scene. We all remember the final scene in both books and movies. Years have passed and we see all the main characters with their children at platform 9 3/4. It was great to see all of them leading their calm, Voldemort-free lives. But Rowling had another idea for the ending, although she knew from the very beginning that it wasn't possible to write it. She wanted so much to show us how graduation was done at Hogwarts. I felt a huge sadness that I wouldn't write a graduation scene, the writer said. I knew from early days that we would never see them graduate. The author felt really sad that she couldn't end the final part with a grand feast scene, and she kept on picturing what it would have looked like. Although we never got to see how JK envisioned the graduation party, we're sure that it would have been grandiose. And now, we get on to one of the most controversial things Rowling regrets about the Harry Potter series. Did Harry and Hermione belong together? Well, according to JK Rowling, they did. She wanted them to be a couple from the beginning of the series and thought they had much more in common. I wrote the Hermione-Ron relationship as a form of wish fulfillment, the author admitted, for reasons that have very little to do with literature and far more to do with me clinging to the plot as I first imagined it. Hermione ended up with Ron. This revelation of hers divided the fans into two groups. After all, some of them agreed that Harry and Hermione were a better fit. But half of the fans were left heartbroken, saying that although Ron and Hermione didn't have a lot in common, they were perfect together because they balanced each other out. Now tell us, whose side are you on? Do you think that pairing up Hermione with Ron was the right decision? Or was Harry a better fit for her? Share in the comments below and watch our other Harry Potter videos about little-known behind-the-scenes details from the series. Thanks for watching.